Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I wanted to touch base on a video I released. I think you guys saw it yesterday, and it was discussing the situation in the United States. One of the questions I asked had to do with, one of the comments I made wasn't a question I put to the cards, but I was discussing a previous reading that I had done where I had mentioned that Emo Boy and you-know-who would part ways, or it would start to crumble at least by March, April. I was referencing the DOGE aspect. I don't think that, and I don't think I clarified that in my comments, but I was referencing how Emo Boy was hired for a special assignment, right, for DOGE. And when the legal time frame expired, he had to be gone. None of us knew that at all. None of us had any clue that there was a loophole that, who could have hired Emo Boy. But since then, and it hasn't been discussed greatly. It's just been mentioned in passing. None of the news outlets are discussing how there was a law that's, a president could hire somebody special for a special job. They had to be gone within 100 and some days. But I think, because he hired him on the first day, that number of days expired by May 3rd. So it just totally fits in perfectly, which was really kind of cool. The other thing I want to mention about yesterday's video is that I did a couple reads, but I did one read on, whose team. And I don't remember the exact order, but I got I think it was four coins, 6 batons, temperance, and then the quint card was the Papess or Pope Joan. And then I did another read on the people who will defeat them. And I've said it many times, my process for shuffling the cards. I riffle shuffle between questions. I riffle shuffle 11 times, and then I overhand shuffle 21, and then I come on camera and just do a couple for the benefit of you guys, And I got the exact same valued cards. Not necessarily in this order because I don't remember, but I got 4 cups, 6 swords, temperance, and because the 4, 6, and temperance were the same for the quint card, I got the Popess again. And so the reason I'm mentioning it is because by the end of that read, I said we have to beat them at their own game. And then when I reflected back on it, that message really rings true because the card values, the numbers, they may have been different suits, but the numbers and the values were not the values because they have different meaning when they're different suits. But the numeric value and then the temperance and then the quint card were the same. So it's like, this is their floor plan. We got to mimic that floor plan with subtle differences and beat them at their own game. And I didn't catch on to that until after I did the read. So I wanted to mention that to you. I thought that was really kind of very interesting. Don't you think? I'm not letting that go yet. Furthermore, one of the questions I asked is what we could do. And as I mentioned, it was like beat them at their own game. But I felt like, well, how do I beat them at their own game? I have no power. But then I thought, after the read, maybe we do have power. Aside from voting, which, he'll say it was fixed, or he'll have a temper tantrum about it wasn't legit, or he'll do a criminal investigation on every single person who voted against him and whatever they have in their closet, such as being a tarot reader. I can't even imagine. But then I thought, okay, on a small scale, what can we do? Well, what is their game? What do they spew out to us? They spew out to us just constant, every day it's something else. And to the point where even the best of us who want to keep following it get like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need a break, Now I force myself to watch 3 outlets, not on the national news, nothing like that. I go to sources on YouTube, independent sources, to see what's going on. I force myself, right? But, maybe that's what we all need to do. Maybe every time, even if we're reluctant to make a comment or post things because we don't want to put ourselves out there, although that's what I mean when I say be brave. We've got to we have a voice. So we have to put things out there, just like they do. We have to put stuff out there. But even if you're not at that point yet where you have that kind of courage, which I pray that you get there, because the more courage we collectively have, the better we can beat them at their own game. But for now, if you don't have that kind of courage, like everything that you see that's posted against them, there's safety in numbers, Anytime you see somebody posting something, if you get really brave, hit the share button. Support channels that speak up against. Because the Midas Network, right? The Midas Touch Network, MTN, they have way more subscribers than Fox News. They're beating his realm at their own game. And I think that's what, yesterday I was doubtful what we could do on our little end, but I think that's one of the things we could do is counterbalance, There's more of us than there are them. And the numbers that support him are dwindling. Maybe they do support him, but they're not brave. They're not brave. They're cowards. They're cowards. Only the ones who are like Looney Tunes, are brave enough to like put flags in their front yard and stuff, because they know that the other team isn't going to bomb their house like they might, right? And also, there was another point I wanted to make. Well, if I remember my point, I'll mention it later. But I think, what we have to do to beat them at their own game is bombard them like they bombard us, and continually counterbalance the toxicity that they spew. And even if the people who support him still support him, and there are a few that we still see, MAGA signs in the front yard and stuff like that. But they're farther and fewer to be seen. So they have at least gone underground. They're not like flaunting themselves anymore. So they've either abandoned him, or they're just doing it on the low key because they know it's the wrong thing morally and they don't want to be called out, right? So I think we're wearing them down, and we have to continue to do that. And to do that, we have to be brave, and we have to take stands, I have a very modest voice. I don't even have 4,000. I don't even have 4,000 subscribers. But if you wouldn't mind, I'd really appreciate your support with a subscription and a like to this video and all my videos you've ever watched. But just to and then when they do have a voice, if you see something posted on social media, check out where it came from, because usually it's just a fake, bogus platform. It's not somebody who's got 4,000 pictures of their grandchildren, right? And family activities. It's usually somebody with 12 friends and with a picture of who knows who they have a picture of. And it's always usually they're hiding behind a fake account. They're usually hiding behind a fake account. Check it out next time. The ones who you see, supporting or saying, "Oh, you libtards," that kind of thing. Go check out their sites. Go check out their pages. Check them out. There's not usually that much substance behind them. So I think we're making a dent, and we have to continue to make a dent. And to make the dent, we have to beat them at their own game, and we have to be brave to do that. And I want to make the point that, it's no disgrace in not getting the message immediately or not understanding it immediately. That took me 24 hours, or, not 24, but by the end of yesterday, it dawned on me, and then I wanted to make sure I did a video on it this morning, right? What it meant, So sometimes if you don't really you get the, like, I got the beat them at their own game, but I wasn't really sure how I could do that. And I asked what I could do or what we collectively could do. Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. And by forcing me to think, wasn't it uncanny that we got the same number cards, like 4 and 6 and temperance, and then the pupess? They were a different 4 and 6, different suits, but it was still the same thing, but a different attitude, right? So it's okay, I think, to give it time and to just sit on something. Sometimes messages come through after meditation, and it's no disgrace. I think one of the reasons that when I was learning to do the cards, to do it for people, was because I felt like I'm not quick enough, like they want a quick answer, and I learned that slow it down, maybe don't speak as soon as you see as soon as you lay the cards, don't speak automatically. I mean, let it digest. Lay the cards if you feel like you're under pressure, if you're working with a person, a client, tell them you need a minute. That's it. I mean, they're coming to you, right? And I will say this, one of the ways to really improve your game, believe it or not, is to work on a hotline, because it forces you to commit. I mean, do it for a little bit before maybe you do that, because you don't want to be spewing BS. I think, the channels, the hotline channels are notoriously full of people who are not sincere, or they're doing it for the wrong reasons. I think, I have a hunch. But after you've done it, maybe for a year or maybe 2 years, something like that, and you've really committed yourself and you really want to learn it, and you have a pretty good base, put yourself on a hotline, because it will force you to commit to a quick response. It's like playing quick chess. I don't know what that's called. Fast chess, the chess that you hit the button, for the timed chess. It kind of gives you that discipline. Now, it's not how I would recommend doing all your readings, but it does help you force yourself to be quick-witted regarding the messages in the cards. I don't really, feel inclined to do that anymore, because I feel confident and comfortable enough with myself to just give myself whatever time I need to digest. But it is a good technique. It is a good tactic to become a little more proficient. Okay. I don't know what the question is yet. I have to go to think about a question. But I know, whatever question it is, that I'm going to be using my very first tarot deck, the 1JJ Swiss. Those of you who've been following me for a long time, you know the whole story about it. I saw the first deck when I was 10 years old. The first time any tarot deck appeared on American national television was on the soap opera Dark Shadows, which I watched. I'm of that age. We came home every day, and this was what we watched. And there was, I don't know what year it was, maybe 68. I think I was 10 years old. And I think Grayson Hall was reading cards for a character named Josette, and she was foretelling that there was something bad going on in the house or whatever. At any rate, I saw these cards. I thought they were the most gorgeous cards. I was like, whoa, what is that? And then years later, when I was I guess I was 16 or 17, I was at the mall. I went into either Spencer's or Spain's. I can't remember which one of those shops it was, but it was a novelty shop. And I immediately recognized it from the box, because I knew these were tarot cards. I mean, there was a sign that said tarot cards. And I recognized the art, and I was like, whoa! By then, I was already on an art trajectory, going to, an art school. I already knew that was my future. And so I definitely responded to the beauty of the cards. And every single time I pick up this deck and I look at any of these cards, I tingle. I actually tingle with excitement, as I did the very first time. And every now and then I need to pull these cards out just to feel that extra charge, which is what I want to do today. Maybe some of you can relate. Whatever your first tarot deck is, you should tell me down below, because I'd be interested to know what your first tarot deck was, or the one that charges you with that initial excitement of whoa. Okay, I have to come up with a question still. So I'll be back. Okay, I came up with a question. For those of you who've been following me at least for a few weeks, you may recall that I had asked the universe at one point to give me a number that we need to pay attention to, and the number was 68. Now, the first thought that came to my mind was the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which seemed to be very relevant since civil rights are being deteriorated, and it seemed to have been very relevant. However, there's been something nagging in the back of my head that tells me maybe 68 could have referenced a date. Now, I don't know if I did a reading on what June 8th might represent in the United States, and since I'm the one who pulled the number, it would be from my perspective, which 6/8 would represent June 8th. I know it's different in Europe and elsewhere, but from my perspective, it would be June 8th. So I don't think I did a reading on the what could be something that happens on June 8th. It doesn't have to be exactly on June 8th the way, stuff happens. It could be something that happens on June 8th that we don't see but we learn about later, that kind of thing. So we have to have an open mind. But I'm going to put it to the universe. If 6/8 was, I think it's clear that it was referencing Civil Rights Act. I think that was clear, the deterioration of it. But I'm going to ask further, could June 8th have something to do with it also? And what can we expect to see or look out for or consider might be going down on or near June 8th? Let me go off into my meditative place. I'll be right back. Okie doke. I think for this read, I'm going to use the signature spread, which I developed, which you're welcome to use. Just if you use it on a public forum, to please just give me credit, because people deserve to be given credit for things they've developed, right? Okie doke. Eight coins. Whoa, interesting. An increase. Two batons. So we have land or earth surrounded by batons, which is interesting. Okay, so that was 7 batons. Here we have 8 swords. Front and center of the core 9 is 8 swords. No triumph card. So this might just be saying it's a regular old day, the regular kind of agitation and aggravation we might experience. We do have fire and water there in almost equal amounts. Earth and air don't necessarily get along so great. So we have that here as an agitation. 10 cups, saturation, almost oversaturation. So we go from minimal to oversaturation. Just mentioning these things. And then we have a Knight of Swords. So we have here represented every single one of the suits. Maybe not in, same measure. We have 2 cups. We have 3 swords, which could suggest there's a little bit extra aggravation. And we have 2 batons and 2 coins. We don't have any of the higher order cards. So maybe, to me, that suggests that June 8th might, at least on the surface, be an average, typical day in the life of. But I still want to see, because they're going to be up to something every single day of the week, right? So I just want to see. Let's see what the quint cards are. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel And this part may confuse you. What I do is I add up the numeric value of the cards that are Pip or Triumph. I don't give numeric value to court cards. So in this case, for example, we have 5 and we have 10. That would be 15. In the event that the total would exceed 22, I subtract 22 until I get a number from 0 to 21. So if it was 22, I would just pull the full card, because if I subtract 22 from 22, I'd get 0. So other people have said, oh, that's not how you do it. It's this is not the right way. You can do it whatever way you want. The way I've developed it for doing is to subtract 22, because in that way, I get every card. Okay, doke. Alrighty, so the quints are from top to bottom: Sun, Tower, Devil, and then Emperor. Oh, so unfortunately, when I see the Emperor, especially if I'm asking a question that could relate to you know who, which it does, it always just comes back to him. So there is something, but we're not going to be privileged to see it. It's not, oh gosh, I'm dropping everything. So sorry. We're not going to be privileged to see it on June 8th, but it's something with, I think it's something of consequence. It may be that something will be brought to light, something destructive that will be brought to light, something very born of unholiness, will be brought to light, and he will be, or his team will be, the orchestrator. So just because we're not going to see it, and just because it will play out like a regular day for most of us, let's not underestimate something that is happening that we're not privileged to see. Let's see if we can find subtle clues then. I think perhaps this row maybe is telling us to pay attention to whatever it is that the woman who is his press secretary, whose initials are KL, who I think of herself as doing the devil's work, she's looking at him to do his bidding. So to look at what she brings to the table on June 8th, just look at what she brings to the table. An oversaturation, right? This is oversaturation of unhinged dialogue, right? Perhaps whatever she delivers that day will be so off the rails that we need to pay attention to it. I mean, everything she says is off the rails because everything she says is in support of him and his lunacy. But let's pay attention. I think this is her doing his bidding. Okay, now here we see destructive, and we have the Emperor by design on this row. So I see the Emperor as participating for the whole read, but I also see this card participating in what goes on in this row. So I'm wondering if this row suggests that they feel the need to begin a new strategy, or to let something crumble and start something else, to start with a new message. Front and center of the core 9, we have eight swords. So it's possible that when I see this card, it's not just him, but the strings that play him like a marionette doll. Maybe they're seeing that they are losing ground, right? And in order to preserve their ideology or their message, maybe they have to do something to really shake it up and start something fresh, because maybe they feel like there's protesting, and the individuals, the community, right, might be they might be losing ground. They'll never admit it because they go on TV every day and say, we have more numbers than ever and we have more support and the rest of the world just loves us. And they tell us lies all the time. But maybe even she perhaps, or begin to see that, now did you hear that now anybody who does a poll, he's doing criminal investigations against anybody who did a poll that showed him in an unfavorable light. So if you took a poll, and every news media did, right? Even his national television network, FOX, has done polls. But anybody who's done a poll where he's been seen in unfavorable light is getting a criminal investigation. Frightening. And something is being found out. So as a result of something coming to light, I think that is their impetus for maybe trying to redirect, and which she will do the bidding there. So maybe the thing that will come to light will be an exorbitant amount of money. It could have something to do with the exorbitant amount of money that's going to be for this stupid parade. He has a parade planned for his birthday, which he's pretending that it has to do with celebrating the Army's 250th birthday or something like that. Now, these aren't military cards, but they do suggest money, a lot of money. It could have something to do with money being spent in a partnership, will come to light. It could be an individual, it could be a country, it could just be a project. But something regarding a lot of money has the risk of surfacing, which gets them to redirect their message, maybe start a new tactic. And then we should pay attention to the lies that she spews. And it is all centered on him. So 6/8 may not be a day that we see it happening, but pay attention to these clues because I think something will be brewing. I think this was a very interesting read. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be brave.